Welcome back, everybody, to Failing Forward. With me today is a phenomenal friend of mine, somebody I've known for a number of years now. He was a Colorado State University four-year starter. Pardon me, I need to back up. Before you even got there, you were the 2011 Colorado Football High School Gatorade Player of the Year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That has more words in it than any achievement I've received. So you're already,
It's only cool because it's Gatorade.
Steps ahead of
People
me.
know Gatorade. That's the only reason it's cool.
Gatorade Player of the Year, Colorado State University, four-year starter, signed with the Oakland Raiders in 2016, and a serial entrepreneur. And I honestly consider you one of my very good friends, man.
Absolutely.
Joe Hansley, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Jared. I'm fired up, man.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you being here today. You and I have had a lot of conversations about this already, and we've had some good ones.
We kill it when we talk on the road, on the road trips.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Driving out to Utah, we've had some good conversation.
Guys, this is somebody I literally spent 8 hours there and back in the car with while our partner mostly slept or responded to emails. We covered some stuff that day.
Yeah, I was slightly hungover, so I was willing to kind of let it loose.
Yeah, for sure.
It was good stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you rolled through that, even through that. So
of course.
But no, man, I really appreciate you being here today. I'm excited to get this conversation rolling and allow some of our listeners to learn not only about you, but learn from you as well. That's one of our huge goals here with Failing Forward, and our intentions for our listeners is allowing them to learn through the failures and mistakes that others have made. And as a good friend of yours, I can honestly say I absolutely see you as someone who's already achieved some form of success. I know you have much bigger aspirations than where you're at now.
Absolutely.
And I respect the hell out of that. But you've overcome some immense hurdles in the short, 27 years that you've been here?
26.
Jesus,
in February. I'm still young.
Old as hell. But no, you really, really have. You've overcome some huge hurdles as an entrepreneur, as an athlete, and you've learned some shit along the way. And I wanna touch on some of that.
Let's get into it, man.
All right, man. So guys, as I mentioned, this is a kid who athletics didn't skip his generation. He got them all. He was the 2011 Colorado Football High School Gatorade Player of the Year. I did not play on varsity until my senior year, so slight variation in our athletic abilities. But tell me a little bit about your experience at high school as a football player.
Yeah, I mean, pretty typical, to be honest, if you want to take it from the football direction. But I mean, you kind of know the area I grew up in. Highlands Ranch is like an unbelievable community. Lots of good people, lots of good opportunity that come from there. There's the bad and the good, obviously, not bad in a sense of violence or crime or things like that. But I think it's a place where you can kind of get stuck in the mud and feel really comfortable about where you're at. That's really how I view the town. And then obviously, I mean, I was fortunate to be good at sports, and I was good at football, and my coaches gave me every opportunity. I had great people around me in high school, and found some success.
Absolutely, man. You said one thing there that I want to make sure we highlight, but I also want to spend a little bit more time on it specifically in just a few moments. And that was that you mentioned the environment you were in as a child, as a young adult, was comfortable, was the term you used. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. It's growing up and being kind of in that upper middle class, which there are a lot of people in Highlands Ranch who are from that area, or that classification. It's a place where you're not worried about where your next meal is coming from. Most of the families, if not all of them, it's, hey, can I have $20 to go to the movies? And the parents can run it. It's not necessarily somewhere where you're worried about what's next to come. It's kind of predictable. You're going to get to play whatever fall or spring sport you want to. There's not going to be money constraints. Obviously, there are families in that area who that's not the case, but it's not the majority. So that's really where I think of it being a comfortable area. Sure. It's kind of like what you see on on the movie screen. It's not white picket fences, but that kind of feel.
Kind of that High School Musical feel.
I want to dog my hometown like that, but.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time. No, I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I'm sure there are people listening who either grew up with a very similar experience or grew up with a very different experience. And I think as we dive into this conversation a little bit further, there's going to be opportunity for people to recognize a different perspective And I mean that in two ways. One, allowing people to understand that your environment doesn't always determine your outcome.
Sure.
And two, that you chose to place yourself in a environment of stress
Mm,
as opposed to returning to a sense of comfort. And again, we're going to
mm.
come back to that a little bit later. So you're phenomenal at high school football. You were a wide receiver.
I played running back in high school.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
they handed to
I
me like every other
shit.
play
I've
was
known you for
awesome.
years. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean I did both, but I was
Okay.
not a huge guy, Jared. I couldn't play running back in
I think you
college.
look great.
I would. I mean, I've been in the gym, but
Okay, so played running back in high school. You get the full ride offer from CSU.
Mm-hmm.
You get the opportunity to play for a great school here in state. Talk to me a little bit about what changed for you from high school to college on that mental side of things. I mean, obviously, you continued to excel as an athlete. You continued to refine your craft, and that led you to even another level, which is such a small percentage of people who can
Mm-hmm.
get that far. But what changed for you mentally as far as what you thought was possible?
Honestly, from high school to college, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot changed. And I'm not saying that in a good sense at all. For me, when I went to college, it was kind of the same mindset around. I was very scared to disappoint like my family and disappoint my coaches, and that's really what drove me from a work ethic standpoint. Is obviously I had internal drive, and I for myself I wanted to be good, but like I was terrified of like not living up to like coaches' expectations and different aspects of that. So I really do wish my mindset would have shifted in a different way going into college and look at it more of an opportunity to set myself up for the future in athletics. Rather I was, I'm a social kid in general. I was excited to go party. I was excited to go, experience being a Division I college athlete and having people know who you are and things like that, which is, you look back at it and you're like, how stupid is that? Right. You kind of, in a sense, blow an opportunity, which I didn't. I think I was still successful in creating a future for myself. But yeah, I wish my mindset would have been different. It was very similar coming out of high school to college in the sense of broad picture, my life and all. Obviously, within sports, it was like, holy shit, these motherfuckers are big.
Sure.
Like it was a different game. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it was pretty maintained from high school to college. College to the pros was a little different, and
Sure.
and more so once I got released out of Oakland was where I had like my big shift in mindset.
Absolutely. And before we get to your transition from college to the NFL, I want to make sure we highlight something there. So Joe mentioned that, and the reason I want to make sure we highlight this is you're not the only one, Joe. I
Yeah.
got to imagine the majority of kids when they hit that college age, whether they went
Mhm.
to college or not, 19, 20, 21, 22, maybe even a few years after that, a lot of what they're choosing to do is based on the opinion of others or the expectation of others,
Mhm.
and I was one of those people as well.
I think in general, regardless of where you're
Yeah.
at in your life, a lot of people don't lose that. They hold on to that, that outside judgment.
Oh yeah. And it's funny that you bring that up because I've actually been thinking about this a little bit in terms of my own life, and I do not in any way want this to come out as a negative comment towards my parents because it's not. They did a phenomenal
Mm.
job raising me. I thank them for every opportunity they gave me, but I think part of the turmoil that I ran into is in part from how much they spoke about my achievements to others. Like, and I'm sure your parents were the same. Like, did you
Yeah.
ever walk in the kitchen, like when like family was visiting or like the neighbors were over and your
And they
mom
were
would
piping you
immediately,
up?
they're piping you up.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, you should have seen him on Friday night. Oh my God. Like he's the best player on the field. Like, and that wasn't it for me because I wasn't, that athletic, but I had other things I was decent at. But,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't hype up your kids. Like, I know I'm going to be stoked as hell for my kids when they do cool shit.
Mhm.
But I think there's potentially some possible damaging conditioning going on when
Mm.
you consistently place um, conversations around what the child has achieved.
How were they with you when you weren't talking to parents?
Um,
Like when they weren't talking to parents, were they encouraging toward were they saying the same things to you or was it completely different?
I think it was very similar. I think, and don't get me wrong, like my mom's like a lot of other moms where I could shit in a brown bag, and she'd be like, "This is the best shit in a brown bag I have ever seen.
Nice shit,
You should
Jared.
be professional."
Yeah.
No, Mom, if you're listening, I love you. But really, like, that's who my mom is. Like, when I told her I was going to do a podcast, she like was beaming with pride, and I love her for that. I
Very
love her
cool.
for her support. But at a very young age, you're so impressionable. Everything you experience, and even into
Easily influenced.
exactly everything you experience, you perceive as normal.
Yeah.
So from a very young age, when your parents, the people you spend the most time with, are constantly um, building you up because of what you've already achieved, it's not unreasonable to assume that that kid is going to continue to grow up to say, I'm going to make decisions based on what I think will make my parents proud,
Mm.
not what I will be fulfilled with.
Yeah. I'm on the
Um,
Gary V train of kids' perceptions of having to impress their parents.
Oh, sure, sure.
Like
sure.
I don't know. I think you have to at some point,
You gotta take
earlier
the training
rather
wheels
than
off.
later.
You gotta make your own
later.
decisions.
Yeah, make your own decisions.
Absolutely.
But that's the whole parenting aspect. My dad was very like had no problem talking about me to other people.
Yeah.
But when it was me and him, very encouraging, but you're not doing enough. You know what
Sure.
I'm saying? Like you can do everything, but you can do whatever you want. You can achieve what you want. You need to work harder. You're not doing enough. Certain things like that. And I didn't necessarily at that point in time, looking back at that age, I didn't.
What age was that? Like what?
High
age
school.
High school.
High
Okay.
school. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably after my freshman year when he,
So it was when I recognized that you had some talent.
Sure. But my dad had always pushed me. Like he came from a background where his dad was like, pushed him, right?
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? There wasn't any like, here's a ribbon, good job, you made the team. You know, it was like, what's the next step?
If you ain't
how are you
first,
going to
you're
level
last.
up? Yeah, not that, not like that, like extreme.
Sure.
It was, I mean,
He wanted the best for you.
he wanted the best for me. I back at the time didn't respond positively towards I needed more encouragement.
Sure.
Like looking back at it now. That's not the case for me now. Like now I love people kind of doubting me or saying like, hey, you need to do more because I'll try to go out and prove it. But like, dude, I was a cocky motherfucker back then. And I thought like I'll do regardless of what happens, like I'm gonna do it my way and I'll be successful doing it my way.
Sure.
Specifically in sports, and that absolutely caught up to me in the negative, in a negative way.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm glad we explored that a little
Yeah.
bit because it's something that popped into my head again not too long ago. Within the last couple of weeks, I've spent a couple different occasions thinking about it. And like I said, like when I have kids, especially if they're in sports, because that's something I grew up doing, I'm gonna be stoked as hell for them. I'm gonna tell them I'm stoked as hell for them.
Yeah.
But it also sparks the internal conversation of what am I gonna do a little bit differently?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what am I gonna do to make sure they are feeling fulfilled? And again, I don't expect an 12-year-old or something to understand the sensation of fulfillment. I'm
Right.
not saying that, but I also by no means want my future children to fall into the repetitive cycle of doing things to make me proud.
Right.
Because I'll be honest, man, like I'm gonna be more like my mom. That kid's gonna do
Yeah.
anything.
Oh,
and
my
I'm gonna be
mom's a
stoked.
rock star. Like, not that my dad wasn't, but my mom was extremely encouraging.
Oh, yeah.
She was more of that for me. I don't think she felt as comfortable piping me up to other people. Like, she'd be like, yeah, like Joe did this and this, but she'd like kind of downplay it, you know?
Sure.
And then, but with me, she's like even now with like business stuff, she's like, yes, like
Yeah.
keep going, keep going.
Is your mom one of the first people you call if something like big happens for business? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like you
yeah.
want to
When
like
we
let
got
her know, be
Herbalife,
like,
when
"Babe,
we
like,
got the Herbalife PO, I texted my
Yeah.
mom and my dad, but yeah, different stuff like that. But back to the parenting thing, I think parents need to do a better job of figuring out what makes their kid tick and letting go of what their parenting style was for them, however their parents held on or, decide to raise them and certain things like that. I'm not saying have your kids take a PI test and figure that shit out. Like, take a real interest in your children and and figure out and try different things and try to understand how they respond to them. And I've had friends who I could tell looking back now, like looking back and remembering, I'm like, okay, your parents did a great job of understanding what made you tick.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's this fine line between you still being motivated but still feeling encouraged and like you could do more.
Yeah.
And that's I know that's what I'll try to do with my kids is it's not me, like there's going to be a parenting style that I think I naturally have and how I like naturally coach or come off as, but I'm not going to be too worried about, sticking to that. I'm going to be willing to adapt.
I like that. I really, really like that. I think the most powerful thing you said there, not only holding on to the perspective of allowing your kids to be who they are
Sure.
and seeking to understand who they are, but adapting as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's very similar to a thought I hold for myself just in regards to life.
Right.
I try to always verbally tell myself that the way I think right now, what I believe in right now, may not always be the case.
Right.
I have to like, and the reality of it is, my beliefs and thoughts and ideas have changed as life has gone on.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I believe that the way I think now is the final stage?
Yeah.
I'm hopefully only a small percentage of the way through my life, and intuitively, I'm only a small percentage of the way through my belief system as well.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that though, because I can take something away from that because I've gotten to the point in my life where things are going well, right? And things are starting to compound and continuously get better. And so I'm like, sometimes I need to check myself and be like, still be open to what's new, different ways to do things and different way to think about things. Because the way I'm thinking now is working for me.
Sure.
I'm extremely happy. I'm finding success in business, different things like that. And so I'm like, why would I listen to that person? So
Right.
But
right.
you have to be open to that, and you have to
Exactly.
be okay with it.
It's
without a
maintaining an
doubt.
open mind.
Yeah,
That's
it's essential.
It sounds simple, but it's hard to practice. It really is.
It is.
It really is. That was awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing a little bit more about your folks and just your experience with them.
Yeah, my parents are awesome. I hope they listen to this.
I hope so too.
I got extremely
I hope
lucky.
so too. So we go through college. You had a pretty damn successful 4-year career. And you get signed by the Oakland Raiders in 2016. Walk me through your experience with the Raiders, and again, I'm going to ask the same thing: how you changed mentally because of your experience.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Until like my senior year, I never had the thought of like really playing in the NFL. I knew I was doing good. Like I was starting in college. I guess I didn't realize how obtainable it was to actually go and whether you get an opportunity. Dude, tons of guys get a chance.
Sure.
Like to go and work out and train with pads on in front of an NFL staff. Like a lot of guys get you. If you start a Division I school, like not all 22 guys, but like more or less if you want it and you want to go through pro day and you want to find a good agent, like you're going to get the opportunity.
You can probably find an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so much more rare. And all the guys in the league will talk about this to actually make a 53.
Sure.
Like
they cut a fucking significant amount of people for the final roster.
There's levels. There's so many levels within it. And those guys are like that, but like they understand like, okay, I might have gone through training camp and preseason and all these things with an NFL team, but like there's a drastically big difference between that and actually making a 53-man roster. So, but no, like I think when I was in college, my mindset and my outlook wasn't where it needed to be about what was obtainable with the NFL. I thought it'd be cool. Wanted to play in the league ever since I was a kid, but I guess never truly believed it. And that's one of the bigger shifts I've had now and why I'm finding success with what I'm doing now. But is that true belief? But I'd say towards the second half of my senior year, I started getting like hit up by agents, and you get some interest here and there. Hey, you might be invited to this all-star game, different things like that. And like that kind of gives you some more confidence that it could happen. That
sure.
That's a possibility. But yeah, I mean, I got the opportunity, and in my mindset, I was in a position where I wasn't drafted. I had the opportunity to sign as an undrafted free agent. I don't know if you kind of understand how it goes, but like right after the draft, all the people who didn't get drafted get hit up by coaches, and they try, they say, hey, we'll pay you X amount. We want you as an undrafted guy. Small numbers. It's not like you're getting
not to
drafted
interrupt, but was there ever any like belief that you might get drafted, or were you kind of under the impression?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Teams would tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had some teams say, hey, you might take you in the 7th, different things like that. But
how did that feel? I don't want to take you off track, but like, because you just told me that you really didn't even have a belief that the NFL was an opportunity.
That was pre second half of my senior year.
Okay, but still, I mean, that's not.
But when I was training,
2
and
years,
you're getting,
that's not
when I'm training every day, my senior year, second semester, and you're in the gym and you're with other guys training.
Yeah.
And you get a call from a team, they get a call from a team, like, hey, you healthy?
Okay.
Making sure we have the right contact info for you. We might take you in the draft, things like that. Like that stuff's encouraging, but they blow a ton of smoke.
Sure.
Like they're saying that to a lot of guys.
But those experiences started creating the belief that this was a real possibility.
Yeah. And that's where I look back and was like, I needed more encouragement when I was younger. And it pisses me off because one of my biggest role models, I guess it doesn't, it pisses me off for myself. One of my biggest role models to this day was my college receivers coach. Alvis Whitted, just like an amazing dude, the coolest. Like I get chills like talking about him because he's just the coolest guy. I remember when I first met him, I was like, dude, you're the coolest guy I've ever met in my life. Carried himself really well, spoke well, had such a good resume and track record of what he's done with his life. Mainly the way he carried himself. And he was all, like, dude, I'm telling you, you can play. I'm telling you, you can play. And don't be surprised when this stuff and, this, that, and this happens. So, I kind of kicked myself not believing and putting more weight into that from him. But yeah, I mean, it definitely gives you some encouragement. But then going into, once I had to go and try out at rookie minicamp is what's like, it's a tryout. So I had a few teams call me right after the draft, and this makes me mad that I didn't say yes right away. The Raiders called me. They're like, hey, we want you as an undrafted free agent. So I was like, okay, let me call my agent. I put down the phone, call my agent, and he's like, well, you're going to have other teams call you. Like, you got to be smart, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And so
you can only commit to one.
You can only commit to one. I literally waited like 5 minutes. I waited 5 minutes and sat there with my family, and I pick up the phone and call the Raiders, and they're like, oh, we signed somebody else. We want a different way. And I was like, oh, well, that fucking sucks. Okay, well, hopefully somebody else calls. We waited like 2 hours.
I did not know that part of the story.
Yeah. So waited a couple hours.
What did that feel when you were told that? Like, was there a little bit of despair? Were you like, hey, it's cool, we'll find another way? Like, where were you at mentally?
Yeah, more so I was discouraged.
Sure.
But it was more I was optimistic about other teams calling.
Okay.
And we got some other calls, but it was like, hey, have you signed with anybody yet? Like, hey, have you signed with him? We don't want to sign you right now, but have you just doing their due diligence?
Right. They want to know who's available.
Yeah. And this happens within like 2-3 hours after the draft, probably ends before that. Long story short, I don't end up signing with anybody after the draft. And it kind of goes on for a couple days. Like, people get picked up here and there. Fast forward to like, this was probably 2 weeks afterwards. And now I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? Like, NFL is not going to happen, all these different things.
I don't want to assume, but were there backup plans in place, or were you like, dude, I'm going to the NFL at this point?
I mean, going back to coming where I come from, I was always going to be able to go find some corporate job doing sales or doing, so selling insurance, whatever it was, medical. Like,
there was a security net.
Yeah, that was my security net. And, but that's not what I wanted to do at that time, obviously.
Right.
Like, I was sitting there like, I'm not ready to be some normal just dude working in the, like, I want to just fall off the map like that type thing.
Okay.
So I was looking at the CFL. My agent sucked, by the way. He was a complete joke. I'm not going to name drop because I'm a bigger person than that, but he should get out of the gig. Couple weeks go by, and I'm still like, you still hear from teams here and there because guys get hurt, So I was looking at the Canadian Football League. There was a league starting up in Australia. And the weird thing is I didn't love the process around football. Like, I didn't want to play that bad. I think I didn't want to do something else worse, if that makes sense.
So it was more like you wanted to hang on to the idea of doing something different over returning to the norm.
Yeah, exactly.
And the NFL is something different.
The NFL, whether it was the NFL, whether it was coaching, whether it was this Australian league that took a dump, whether it was the CFL, whatever it was. Fast forward, Oakland calls and they go, hey, we still want you to come, but you're not going to get signed. You got to go to rookie minicamp. So what you do is you go in with all the guys who got drafted, all first year guys, new guys to the team, and then all these like tryout guys, which was probably about 10 or 12 of us. So there was a good amount of people out there on the field. You go through 3 days. It's a little different now, I think. Definitely this year with the COVID, it was different, obviously, but they might have changed it up. This was 2016. And so you go through these 3 days, and it's like 2-a-day practice, not tough, grueling 2-a-days, but all football focused. And you're kind of thrown into this environment where they say, hey, you got to learn the playbook. You don't understand what NFL coaches want from this or that. You're treated a little bit differently from the guys that got drafted. The guys that got drafted were going to be there regardless.
Yeah.
They could walk out there and shit a brick on the field in rookie minicamp, and they're
going to release a first or second
they
round
just
pick.
paid him a bunch. He signed the contract more than likely, unless they were in negotiations. And you're going to be there.
You're going to get your 3-4 years at least.
Yeah, for the most part, those guys obviously do well. They're drafted in the NFL. But whatever. Fast forward through the 3 days. This was like, if you think about monumental times in your life where you want good feelings, where you just, whether you thought it was going to happen or not thought it was going to happen, like getting the peel from Herbalife, like things like that. Like the first deal we closed with Scratch, like things like that, those big getting a scholarship, things like that. We were all in a room with the coaches. This is all the rookies. This is all the rookie tryout guys. No, if you had a contract, you weren't in this room.
Okay.
So probably 12 to 15 guys.
So it's all the guys fighting for spots.
Fighting for a spot. And
Gotcha.
typically teams will leave like 1 or 2 spots open, or they'll cut guys that they drafted as a free agent. Not drafted guys, or not drafted as a free agent, but
Signed
picked
as
up,
free
signed
agent.
as a free
Sure.
agent. So this is kind of a crazy story. One of the first dudes that I talked to when I walked into the Oakland locker room was a rookie who just got drafted, or he got signed out of somewhere. I couldn't tell you where he was from. But he's like, oh yeah, I signed as an undrafted free agent. Like I play receiver. I'm a kick punt returner. I'm like, same type of thing as me.
Sure.
His ass got cut after the 3 days of rookie minicamp. He got cut, and they signed 5 of us that came in on tryout. So like my name was like, he's like, the Reggie McKenzie was the GM at the time. He might still be, I don't know. And like the rest of the program, rest of the staff is in there, and he just says, hey, like we obviously appreciate you guys coming out, checking out the Raiders, all this stuff, working out for us. We decided to keep, I think it was 5 of you. If I say your name, like, we appreciate you, stay afterwards. If I don't say your name, like, you're not here.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. We'll see you later.
Right.
I don't know. My name was like second name called or something like that. And it was one of those feelings like, fuck yeah, like just so fulfilling, and like an achievement, obviously, but it was just like, if it did feel good, it felt cool. And I remember like, texting my mom, calling my parents, like, holy shit, I got signed type thing.
Yeah.
And I was stuck out there for like 8 weeks, and you go through, like, I had to have my parents ship out a bag of clothes and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah,
Because at
you're
that
staying
point,
in the
you weren't
hotel.
aware how long you're going to be there.
Yeah. And so my mindset changed, and I did really well through OTAs, and didn't get a ton of opportunity in the preseason. I got hurt. I hurt my ankle pretty early on, first day of contact in training camp. So it went up and down. I should have done some things differently looking back, but I have like 0 regrets other than some mindset shifts when I went in.
Sure.
I should have been more, I honestly, like, I was confident in my ability to play. I wasn't confident that I'd be like, there's a lot of guys going in there like, listen, I'm going to do, this is me for the next 6-7 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to play in the NFL. Like that was my thought.
Interesting.
Which is unfortunate.
There are a lot of pieces of that I wasn't aware, because you and I have obviously had this conversation before.
Yeah, there's a lot of details.
There is. Wow, that's amazing. So imagine this, guys. You've got a guy who, from probably Pop Warner football, has always been one of the better players on the team.
I was good, and then I got passed up by those kids who are like 8th graders when you're in 5th, 6th grade. You know what I'm saying? You're like, why are you so big and fast
a
already?
little earlier?
Yeah, like, why are you so fucking big and fast already?
With
and everyone else can't. Their pads don't even fit them. And so I was a backup for maybe 2-3 years before high school.
That's right. So you got this kid for the most of his teen years. Was always one of the better kids on the team. Always had kind of this next step visually represented in front of him. Am I okay to say that?
Sure,
You kind of always knew college. All right, this is going to happen when you're in
I
college.
knew after my sophomore year I'd play college football.
Yeah.
Not going into college. I was always like I knew what I was. I was an undersized, like, slower white kid. Like it's a tougher. It is like
there will always be a place for those guys.
No, there will. It's
But
just
as long as the
fewer.
New England Patriots are around.
Yeah, right. I don't know. They need Brady back. Brady would feed him the rock.
But ultimately, through the majority of your life, at least the young adult parts of your life,
Mm-hmm.
you were relatively aware of what that next step looked like. It was college, it was the NFL.
Yeah.
It was, can I get there? And you got there. But ultimately the story takes a little bit of a left-hand turn.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in Oakland, things are going well through OTAs. You got a little bit of an ankle sprain in preseason. And what does this ultimately lead to?
I'm trying to put myself back into that space. I remember towards the end of training camp, like, when you're going to get cut, you start losing reps. You don't play in the preseason game. Like, you pretty much know when you're
Getting
going to get cut.
A little bit less attention.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. 100%.
Sure.
So, I remember getting released, and then I was still in that position of like, oh, I don't want to go do a normal thing. Like, not because I didn't want to do those jobs. Like, I'm not downplaying those jobs at all. Like, whether it's sales or, some sort of operational, whatever it is, service engine, whatever you're doing, I'm not downplaying that by any means. I wasn't ready to like go to the norm, like you said. Like, I always saw myself doing something different, and not just working like a normal 9 to 5. So
let me ask you this. I don't want to interrupt you, but when you were a kid, when you were like in elementary school, and they'd say like, "Oh, draw a picture of what you want to be as a grown up."
Yeah.
Did you struggle with that? Or were you able to pull?
I can't remember. I'm trying to think of those. Did you guys do those time capsules where you put in a Pringles can?
I don't think we did.
You didn't do this?
I don't think so.
Oh, dude, in elementary school, we had like we decorated a Pringles can, and you have like these, I don't know, 10 questions maybe. And it's
Yeah.
like, what kind of car do you want to drive? And like you put different
Do
things
you
in there.
have that?
My mom, I guarantee my mom does. It
Oh
says
my
one of
God.
them's play
We're
college
gonna bring
football
you
at Ohio
back on,
State.
and
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah.
read through that.
One of them's play. You're supposed to open it when you're 21. I think I did. One of them's play college football at Ohio State. I was a big Ohio State fan, still am. That's just kind of where my family's from.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you what else was on there, but I wouldn't like. I feel like you.
I get. Was there a solid answer to that question though? Was there a I want to grow up and be this?
No.
No.
It was probably. I probably wrote the NFL.
Okay.
I probably wrote be a pro football player.
Sure.
But my dad played college football. My grandpa played in the NFL. Like that's just what I knew. My dad worked for ESPN growing up, so it was like sports.
Okay.
You know, like
So
I
it's kind
came
of
home,
drawn for you.
I came home from practice and watched Monday Night Football with my dad, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. It was
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was just curious what your answer would have been because I was that kid that I never had an answer to that. Like literally, like
Yeah,
kids
no-
were like
no
fireman,
clue.
doctor, like lawyer, and I was like, I genuinely
Yeah.
like I couldn't picture it. I didn't know.
And later in my life, I had like the thought of like, oh, it'd be really cool to be a lawyer, but I hated school. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna
Sure.
get through school to be a lawyer. I wanted, dude, when I was thinking about going back to school for grad school, when I was in between hearing that I didn't get signed by the, an NFL team, like for those 2 weeks, I'm like, I might go to grad school because I just wasn't ready, like I
Right.
wasn't ready to just be
So it was
normal.
it was like grad school was
More
it was an ability to
opportunity.
delay the decision.
Absolutely. And so many people do it.
Oh yeah.
If you're out there saying, oh, I'm going to grad school because I really love to get my MBA, like bullshit. Bullshit. There's people who are like, yeah, I need this to get to where I
Right.
want to be. There's so many people out there without a plan that just go do it, which nothing wrong with it.
Sure.
But don't waste money on it.
Yeah.
Don't go waste money in college. Go.
That's a whole different conversation. That's
Yeah.
kind of my opinion on college
Yeah.
as well. I think there's plenty of careers that you can be successful at without spending that much money on a degree to be
Yeah.
completely
I'm
honest.
anti-college unless it's a specified
Dude,
degree
I
now,
am
though.
too. I don't. It's just the access to information now is unbelievable. If you want to be really
unreal.
exceptional at something, you can figure out a way.
When
to
our
do it.
kids are going to college, it's not going to be the same, though. It's not.
I hope not.
It's
man.
not.
I don't want my kids to have the same experience. Okay, so I mean, we've at this point essentially gotten through your entire football career. From high school to college, you made it to Oakland Raiders. That didn't pan out, and now we're at this point that you've kind of foreshadowed a couple of times, where you're forced to make a decision of, do I return home to my area of comfort or not?
Yeah, right.
And I think our listeners probably already know you chose not to.
Mhm.
We haven't really covered what you chose to do yet. But before I let you get into that, we're taking a short break from our episode to inform you that season 1 of the Failing Forward podcast is brought to you by Atlas Nutrition. Guys, Atlas Nutrition is a brand that I've known for really since they started. But more importantly, I've known the people that started this company since I was a little kid. These are people dedicated to helping you reach your overall health and fitness goals. They're a team of experts who have been committed to helping others for their entire life. Regardless of what you have in mind for your health and fitness, they absolutely have a coach and a program fit for you. They offer personalized plans offering everything from weight loss, body transformation, digestive health, corrective nutrition, performance nutrition, and even contest prep. And I myself am absolutely someone who would testify to what they're able to do. Just a little over a month ago, I contacted one of their senior coaches, Lauren, to tell her that I was actually experiencing some inflammation in my digestive system. Actually, to be quite honest, I didn't know that's what I was experiencing, but Lauren helped me identify that. Not only did she make changes to my meal plan to help bring in some foods that wouldn't upset my digestive system as much as things were, but she also wrote me a brand new nutrition protocol in terms of supplementation. And I kid you not, guys, I'm still on the recommendations she gave for me over a month ago, but I was feeling better in 24 hours. That is not an ad, guys. That is me telling you that I've had really excellent experiences with everyone I've come in contact with from this organization. Regardless of what you hope to achieve in terms of your health and fitness, they will have the right coach and the right program for you. And to be honest, I just couldn't be more excited and more pumped up to be a partner with Atlas Nutrition for the season sponsorship. And the reason is because they uphold the failing forward mentality. Whether it's to the coaches they employ or the clients they support, they prioritize the importance of properly feeding the mind, body, and soul. And we talk about that all the time on this program, guys. It's not just about what you're doing physically, the information you're reading, the podcast you're listening to. You have to really attack it from all sides. It's about everything you absorb. They understand that growth and development comes from more than just nutrition. It's what you're feeding your mind, your body, and your soul. If you're searching for accountability, education, and guidance in pursuit of improving your physical health, I would absolutely recommend contacting their team. You can reach them at atlasnutritionllc.com or visit them on Instagram at Atlas Nutrition Official. Remember, tell them Jared from Failing Forward sent you. Guys, if you're ready to take your physical health and fitness and make it your number one priority, then they're ready to make you theirs. Reach Atlas Nutrition today, guys. I promise you won't regret it. I want to share something. I actually just learned this really, really recently. And as soon as I read it, I was like, I can't wait to talk about this when I'm sitting down with Joe.
I'm excited.
So I'm, you know me, I like to read like the most obscure textbooks I can find, whether it's about neuroscience, the anatomy of the heart, the brain, any of those things.
You're educated on that stuff, though. I've taken,
but I'm
a lot
also
away from
like
you.
absolutely slow on other things.
Yeah, well, that's,
it's
you
just
know,
if it
benefits to
sparks
both.
interest, like I have a really easy time reading stuff. But I've been reading about neuroscience a lot, and I came across this study. This is something that has been done in the neuroscience community for years, if not decades. I don't want to misspeak, but from what I understand, they've been doing this for a very long time. And what they do is they take a transparent tube that's open on each end, and they put a mouse on either side.
A living mouse.
Living mouse.
Okay.
And the mouse's natural instinct is to basically defend its territory. It's to push the other mouse out the other side. It doesn't retreat.
They put two mouses in.
Yeah, face to face. They put two mice in it, each side.
Battle of the mice in a hollow
I mean, it's
tube.
not. It sounds aggressive. It's not. They just kind of push each other until one falls out the other side because they want, like, this is my tube. Like, get out of here. So the reason this started is because they wanted to actually test if mice had the ability to respond to things like confidence. And what they found is that that's absolutely true. So the mouse that would win, the mouse that would succeed in pushing the other mouse out, when faced with another mouse in a different tube, was more likely to continue winning. Meanwhile, the mouse that got pushed out the first time, when faced with another mouse in a different tube, was more likely to continue losing.
Same scenario. I already lost. I already won.
Exactly. So something as simple as a mouse, they actually have the ability to experience confidence and loss of confidence. But this is where it gets better. So recently, they've taken the same factors, transparent tube, mice, putting them in. But what they've done is they hooked up sensors, and I'm probably not using the right word, maybe probe, I don't know, I'm not a neuroscientist, but they hooked up things.
Some sort of something.
Yeah, something, exactly. To the a specific subregion in the prefrontal cortex. And if you're not aware, the prefrontal cortex is what is responsible for producing emotions like stress and anxiety and adrenaline. It's responsible for like our fight or flight response.
Gotcha.
And with one mouse, they were stimulating this part of the brain, causing stress and anxiety.
Like pulsing it or
Exactly.
what? Like
Literally, they're literally they're causing more stress and anxiety in this mouse than what would naturally occur.
As far as they're heightening the I'm in a tube with this other mouse
Basically.
alone.
With the other mouse, they're quieting that part of the brain, meaning this mouse is experiencing little to no anxiety or stress at all. And what happened was, the majority of the time, the mouse that was experiencing more stress and anxiety ended up winning, meaning he was...
That fight or flight came into play.
Exactly. And what they took that as, it's not proving anything, but it's suggesting that stress and anxiety actually serve a positive role in our lives. And I loved hearing this. Like I lost it. I was literally on a plane while I was listening to this, and I had to get up and like walk around. I was so excited because, as you know, you know me well enough. You and I have had enough conversations that you know my feelings about situations of failure, situations where life kicks you to the ground and continues to kick you while you're down. Those are moments for us to figure out how to learn, how to adapt, and how to continue pressing on and grow from it. And I hearing this, I feel like I've kind of always believed this, but I've never really put a whole lot of thought behind it. But the fact that there's studies that suggest that this emotion that we feel, all of us on a regular basis, it's something we commonly almost fear and avoid. Like we literally attempt to keep ourselves. I mean, really all of us, it's almost instinctual.
Until you figure it out.
Yeah. We try to avoid these feelings of stress and anxiety constantly. And it's only getting easier to do so with all these tools we have at our hands now. I mean, literally our phone can do anything.
Instant gratification.
I don't even have to leave my house to get food. I don't have to deal with the stress of traffic. Someone will bring it to me. Like I can avoid the smallest forms of stress now. And these studies are suggesting that this supposed negative emotion or feeling is actually very, very beneficial for us. The point being
I
that
would agree.
it's our body's natural biological response telling us that we need to adapt to our environment.
Mhm.
How
To
pardon my language,
survive,
fucking
to
cool
live.
is that?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's awesome. Like
Yeah.
that lit a fire under my ass. And the reason I decided to share this with you today is because your story lines up with this so perfectly. You had this what 6 year in the making goal, dream, aspiration, let's say, that eventually just ended one day. There
Mhm.
wasn't a whole lot of lead up to it. Like, yeah, you said, you kind of knew it was coming, in the days leading up to it, the week
Yeah,
leading
for
up to
sure.
it, but there wasn't a whole lot. And for the most part, you were still confident that you could make it happen, and it got cut short. And the natural instinctual response for 99% of humans is to return to that area of comfort. For you, it was return to Highlands Ranch, return to where you grew up, use your mother's
Yeah,
connections,
use
your
that
father's connections,
that
your coach's
network.
connections, and find a job that you knew would pay the bills and provide you a comfortable life.
Mhm.
And not to, call anybody out by any means, but I'm assuming a lot of your classmates probably did this, growing up. They returned to some
Yeah.
level of comfort. And again, I'm not saying that negatively. That's a completely normal
I
human
don't think it was
reaction.
returning. I don't think a lot of them ever left.
Sure, but it's
Dude,
it's that
people don't
instinct to
ever
remain in comfort.
leave. Yeah, they
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
ever.
But
And
there's nothing
yeah.
there's nothing there's nothing surprising about that. Like,
Mhm.
why would you leave if you knew you can provide a comfortable life for you and your
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
by being there? And you chose to avoid that area of comfort and put yourself in a more stressful situation. And this is, guys, I just want to point out, I've not shared this information with Joe before. Neither, or he and I have had a
Yeah,
conversation
yeah,
like this
yeah.
before. But you literally did what was against your natural instincts, but still at the same time knew that something greater was going to come from being in a more stressful environment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just amazing.
I think I got to where I realized that, but it took, when I got released, I went back and coached at CSU. Like I thought I was again, I didn't want to do the norm. I was still
Yeah.
trying, and so I went and I coached. And it was uncomfortable for me. Like that stress and like what you're talking about being in the tube and stress and anxiety, like I think of that as putting yourself in uncomfortable scenarios, and that's
Absolutely.
where growth happens. Somebody else was just talking about it. It was one of the big Instagram guys, and it's funny we bring this up now, just because it was so relevant to me just a few days ago that I saw like finding that place of fear is where all. Oh, actually, I posted on Instagram. It's Trevor Moad. Trevor Moad. This dude does all sorts of crazy, like life skill, different mindset stuff for
Okay.
athletes. He's Russell Wilson's like headspace coach.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I
Yeah.
actually have heard him on podcast.
And he talks
before.
about
is
going and
nuts.
finding that fear and going into the unknown is where all the growth happens. It's where
Yep.
all the fear is, but that's where all the
He's
growth
really
happens.
big on
he's legit.
like positive self
He
conversation.
came and talked to us one time at CSU,
Dude.
and it was unbelievable.
I've
but
heard him speak. He
yeah,
is.
I think naturally I was always like that.
Sure.
Not wanting to kind of be normal. Like I've always known going into college, I was like, I'm getting a business or communications degree.
Sure.
I'm not going to end up using that in my life. Like wherever I go in life is going to be because of who I am as a person, kind of being okay with getting into those comfortable, uncomfortable situations. And I think a lot of that is being confident in yourself. I've never had a lack of confidence in myself. And obviously acting on them and going and doing those things is a big part of it. But, yeah, I mean, that's where everything happens, is that uncomfortable situation. And then eventually you come out and you learn something or you find something out about yourself. And then that's where growth, that's everything. for growth.
Absolutely. Dude, that's amazing to me that whether you call it instinct or maybe this was something you learned metaphorically in your younger years, but the fact that you were knowledgeable enough and confident enough to make that decision at that age, because you were
No.
what, 23?
22.
Yeah, like that's still a pretty young person.
But
Like,
I
was
don't-
not making
I don't
those
think I was
decisions at
conscious of
22.
it though, bro. I don't think I was like aware of like, hey, this might be something that I succeed at, might not be, but like it's I guess you're right. I knew it wasn't something, it wasn't the easiest route.
You weren't
It wasn't the easiest way.
You weren't aware where it was going to lead you,
Sure.
but you knew putting yourself in a harsher environment would potentially create more opportunities.
Yeah.
Would-
Well, I
would-
knew it was going to be a grind being the whole
Right.
doing a coach, and I
Al-
was okay with that.
And
I
although
was
you
okay
didn't
with
have a, precise visual of what the future held,
it. Yeah.
you knew it wasn't something that you were familiar with. Like you knew
Right.
it wasn't this like there's a metaphor I heard a long time ago that like as kids, as young adults, we have a tendency to put ourselves in a metaphorical dressing room, like at a department store, and
Right.
we hold careers and achievements up in front of the mirror and go, oh, like, do I
Mm,
want to be a fireman? Do I want to be a police officer? Do I want to be a
I
lawyer?
like that.
And the reality of it is, like, although you might hold something up and you think it looks good on you, the the motivation and drive behind purpose and fulfillment is not finding something that already exists for you. It's creating something new for yourself.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you can't be a fireman or whatever. I know I keep saying that as an example, but it's in there.
It's just a
But it doesn't
common.
mean you can't do
Yeah.
that. It means there's opportunity for you to make that path your own. And
Sure.
I think it's really amazing that, again, at like your early 20s, a part of you still knew that in order to create this, it required something you weren't familiar with.
Yeah. I think at that age, I understood the quote of like, and I've heard it tons of times from coaches, like anything around there won't be change if you don't change, or if you do what's normal, you're going to get normal
Sure.
results. And you hear stories, success stories about, for me, it was athletes and other people, it's entrepreneurial success stories, or this person went through this, hardship and triumph to become this. You hear those stories, and if you legitimately look at what you're doing, if you want to be where they are, you have no other option to go and find some sort of like uncomfortable and fail situation, and then you're obviously going to progress from it. Very rarely is it, that person's success story was just cake the whole way
Right.
up. They never had to overcome something.
Right.
I don't think that exists. I think it at different levels you have to overcome different things. My biggest thing, um when I think the most uncomfortable thing for me when I got done with my playing career and wanted to transition to something else was I had to find a way to sell myself in a different way. Previously, it was just put on the film, like
Yeah.
go watch me practice, like something that I was very confident in playing football, being able to perform on the field. That's what they cared about. Who are you? Can you produce for me on the field? Now I'm having to backtrack and figure out like, what else is it about me that's, what did I learn throughout my experience in college and throughout this short experience in the NFL and those guys that I was around that differentiates me from others. I had to do it when I had to go back to Colorado State and sell myself and try to get an opportunity coaching. I've obviously had to do it a ton trying to start a business and push a concept that's completely new to the market.
Right.
So that's where my biggest uncomfort was learning how to sell myself and be confident in myself and who I was and my abilities outside of what's normally been my big selling point, which
Right.
was, athletics.
So it sounds to me like it all boils down to showing others what you're capable of,
Yeah.
whether it be
But
physical.
finding that is what's hard
Sure.
like for some people it's school, like, oh, I'm going to go to Harvard because I know I can get good test scores and I can get good grades. When that
Mhm.
person graduates Harvard and they go to a job where they have to interview and actually converse and all those things, that's going to be a very uncomfortable position for
Sure.
a lot of those people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So at this point in your life, we've wrapped up your time with football. Essentially, you
Yeah,
had
let's
a
move
short
on.
stint
Football's a
with
pastime.
coaching at CSU. But you at this point are exposed to your first opportunity to experience being an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So for the listeners that have no idea what it is you do, can you provide just a real
Yes.
detailed explanation
Yes.
of what you've created and what it was to you when you first started? Because I know it's evolved a long way.
It's evolved a long way.
But
I'll kind of go back into the
but
story of
phase
what it
one,
was.
like, how did this happen? What encouraged you to take that step?
Yeah. So start a company, obviously, called GoMix. It is a delivery system packaging for powdered products. We've evolved to this business model of a turnkey, just add water, drink packaging. That's the nature of the packaging. You add water, you shake it, you drink it. It involves completely powdered nutritional products, anything in that health, wellness, nutrition space, energy formulas, proteins, post workouts, pre workouts, CBD, wellness and greens, different things like that. So essentially, it's a unique way to get your nutrition on the go, and it's very easy to travel with, very convenient to consume. That's what we've obviously evolved to, and kind of being able to offer this unique solution to a lot of different companies and brands. But what it started was, man, the whole reason this business started was our previous business partner had reached out to me when I did get released from Oakland and I was coaching And he caught me at a perfect time. I did not think I was going to be a business owner, but I was not enjoying coaching, or an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it. Like I was not enjoying coaching, and I was in a vulnerable state where I was looking for something different. He had reached out to me. He had a business previously where he manufactured product overseas, specifically spout pouches, as you know. But for the listeners, it's a spout pouch, flexible spout, flexible film packaging, and then a spout like any Aquafina bottle with a cap on top. He was already manufacturing that overseas, so he had some connections. He reached out to me saying, "Listen, man, like I get the game around influence. I understand that we're evolving to this social media, digital marketing driven e-commerce, direct to consumer world.
Right.
I already figured out the business end. Let's partner up. Let's figure out some sort of consumable product that we can." And I don't know why I don't know why it was consumable. I think it was because he wanted to turn over more product. He had been in an industry where you sold something and then you had to kind of wait until it, like,
you had to let them use it
you
up
had to let
before they
them use
reorder.
it up.
Right.
Yeah,
He wanted something
and
quicker.
he wanted something that would turn over quicker to produce more units, obviously
Sure.
grow and scale easier, or faster rather. And so he said, let's come out with this consumable product that's geared towards athletes. That's where your connections are. That's where you're going to be able to go and find people that would, whether they rep it, post on social media, all these different things. But yeah, like, let's partner up. And I was like, dude, like, I'm all for it. Let's do it. I'm coaching. So now I'm in breaking down film. The coaching lifestyle is rough. I got a lot of respect for anyone who's coaching in college, even high school and stuff. Like, those dudes put in so much time and they truly love football for the most part. There's some real shitty coaches out there too, but for the most part, they all love ball. But I was, spending half my time doing film, tagging film, all this stuff. And then the other half, I'm sitting there like running into the hallway saying I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of like a team meeting because I'm getting a call from, whether it's a film supplier. We were trying to get the product together and do all these things. So
Right.
I've always been okay with that sort of stress and discomfort of having multiple things going on and
Kind of working in the unknown.
Yeah. And not having to say like, oh, it's 9 to 5. This is the time that I work. This is
Right.
the only time that I'm going to work. And the only thing my head's going to be on is calling 1,000 people for sales or, smiling and dying type thing. Like, I've always been able to be in different spaces from a mental standpoint of,
Yeah.
hey, I'm worrying about football. Oh, let me go hop in the hall real quick for 15 minutes and take this and then back to this.
Right.
But yeah, that's where we developed the concept. Originally came out with our own brand and kind of, looking back, it was a really good opportunity to prove the concept. It was something that hadn't been done on the market. We were asking people to, one, bring their, powdered nutrition in places that they haven't before on plane, or not typically, right? On planes, wherever they're traveling on the go, waking up in the morning, grab and go type thing. And so, yeah, I mean, it evolved from a proof of concept with our own brand. We sold a whey vanilla protein, and I got into some gyms in Colorado, different, specialty gyms based off of my connections. Kind of just hustled with that. And then, as you know, PJ Sorbo came into the picture, who's obviously had a huge impact on my life. And yeah, I mean, we tell people this all the time. He told me like straight up, like, dude, I think you're running your business wrong. Like, I think there's such a bigger opportunity here. At that point in time, I had no idea like how open-ended and how much opportunity and how much freedom, more than anything, you have in business. That's one of the things I didn't learn. I was a communications major, but I took business classes. It was my minor. I took business classes. They try to put you into this confinement of like, in this industry, this is how a business is ran.
Right.
In this industry, it's bullshit. It's the worst thing you can teach kids in college. It takes away all the creativity, and every success that we've had in our business has come off of a very unique deal. There was caveats within the deal, within the contract, within the structure of it that were very unique. And even, they had done something like that before. We obviously hadn't. And yeah, like I learned from PJ and kind of evolving into our business model now of contract manufacturing with other brands and letting other people put their brand and their powder, or we create the powder for them in the packaging, giving them a new product, a new turnkey product. I realized the freedom in business.
Right.
And from there, it was kind of, for me, it was over. It was like you couldn't tell me things were going to be done this way, only this way. I'm like, well, why? I started raising all these questions, whether we were on a phone and oh, well, what about this? And I'm like, well, what about this? And just framing things different ways. and understanding the freedom that you have within the business world.
Right.
There are no rules, right? There are no rules. You can do what you want. There's guidelines and there's legality. Other than that, you can create any sort of business model, any sort of structure you want, as long as you don't break the law.
That's right. That's right. So for those of you guys that weren't quite following that, because that was a very in-depth description of 2.5 years of business. But basically what Joe produced was a packaging system specifically for dietary supplementation.
Yeah, powders specifically.
Yep, powders. That he filled himself with a powder and marketed himself. So he was a B2C business, meaning business to consumer.
We had an Instagram where, we had some influencers here and there. Hey, buy my product off our website.
Correct. Now, when we mentioned PJ, when he came in, he recognized that there would be possibly more opportunity to transition the business model from the B2C that you had set up to a B2B, which is business to business. So now they're looking at selling pouches from their business to another business, allowing them to utilize their intellectual property, basically. So I just wanted to recap that for those of you that are, not unbelievably familiar with business as a whole. Trust me, I've been with these guys for a few years now. It took me more than one conversation to wrap my head around it.
That's probably good you did that, because I get people asking me all the time. Like, I'll post a brand that we work with or something. I'll post Scratch, I'll post Seven, Synergy, like whoever it is, and they're like, "Oh, dude, like, where can I buy this stuff?" And I'm like, "Go to their website."
You're like, "Well, here's."
Here's their
7
website.
Different websites.
Well, where's that other one you posted? You got to go to their website. They're like, "Wait, but like, where?
Which one's yours?"
Dude, I had kids tell me, "Hey, I can't find that product on your website," and I'm like, "No shit, I'm not selling that product." And I get it. It's just
it's because
it's crazy how unknown that is to society, though. That,
well, not only that, but social media itself is, let's be honest, it's built to be a B2C platform.
Absolutely.
People use it, especially through the use of influencers. They use it to push products directly to consumers. And when you or I or PJ share something that we're excited about or proud of, it's relatively difficult to convey that this is not something that someone is purchasing from us. It's something that we helped implement through the partnership of another company.
Without a doubt.
So that is difficult through typical social media platforms we have.
As well as I do. You see one brand on a packaging, then you see a different one, then they're not all related.
So
but yeah.
This process, though, was not as smooth as you certainly just made it sound. There were a lot of trial and errors. There was a lot of learning opportunities from establishing partnerships to terminating those partnerships to establishing new partnerships. The one question I do want to make sure I ask, though, is how did you feel having someone like PJ come in, who at this point you didn't know super well, tell you that you thought you were running your business wrong? Like, because I've never asked you that personally, honestly. I'm kind of surprised I haven't asked you that. Yeah. But how did you take that? You obviously eventually agreed with him, but was there any kickback or pushback on your side initially? Or were you just like, you know what? I think I know enough about you to trust you. Let's do this.
Yeah, I think that's what we got to, is I got to the point where I trusted him. He originally hits me up on Facebook. PJ's a hell of a salesman. That he is confident.
I had no idea.
He is confident. He can sell. He can, he's very good at what he does. And he does his research and he has facts around everything he's going to present. So, he reached out to me on Facebook. I went to Highlands Ranch High School. He went to Rock Canyon right down the road. We were mutual friends on Facebook, however it was. My ex-girlfriend actually went to his high school. So there was all these different, you know.
You guys are showing up on each other's
pages. He knew we knew, there was some connections there. He hits me up on Facebook, just kind of asked me what it was. And he didn't originally start by, this is why he's smart.
Yeah.
He didn't just hit me up saying, hey, there's way bigger opportunity here. He hit me up. He says, hey, like,
tell me about it.
It was, you guys were working at Complete Nutrition at the time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And he goes, dude, I own and operate all these different Complete Nutritions out in Grand Junction. And, I've done this, this, and this. And I'm like, who is this cat? Like, who is, like I see you went to Rock Canyon. I see we have all these multiple, mutual friends, but like, who are you and why have you done all these things at such a young age? Like you guys hustled when he was younger. He's a little bit younger than you, but like you guys were working together and he hustled, and was doing things like that an 18 to 22-year-old wouldn't normally do.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
And that's why we all flow and mesh and work so well together, is because like we're all very similar in that way. Not being afraid to go into the unknown, and being okay.
I wouldn't even call it.
Situation.
I mean, I would call it that in some cases. I think a more ideal name for it is simply don't put limitations on
Sure,
yourself. You know,
sure.
I grew up putting limitations on
Yeah.
myself.
Same.
And going through depression at a young age, I put even more limitations on myself.
I can
And
imagine.
and eventually, I mean, you and I've had this talk before. I hit a point where I said, no, like I'm done doing that. I'm done telling
Yeah.
myself what ceilings exist.
Total mindset
And
shift,
whatever
mindset change.
whatever I want to set my mind to, I can do it. And I know that sounds like, the quote you'd see on a picture in an office, but it's true. If you're
Mhm,
never going to
mhm.
even remotely reach something if you don't first believe that it's
Yeah,
capable of
yeah.
being achieved. And PJ is someone absolutely who carries that confidence
Mhm,
everywhere he goes, all days,
mhm.
every single day of the week, every time of the day. He is someone who believes that he could probably achieve anything.
Yeah,
Maybe not right then in that moment, but he can figure out a way to achieve it.
yeah.
And I think that's more what has created the common ground in this relationship, in this business partnership, is we all just have the mutual understanding that nothing's out of the question,
Right, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's not something you come across a whole lot.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that I need to thank, as far as helping me push through some of my mental barriers I put on myself. But like PJ was a huge part of it, and without a doubt, the biggest thing that has helped me shifting from finding success and then kind of being capped off on it, and then finding more success and obviously it's still growing is that belief of
Yeah,
what's possible. And PJ was a big part of showing me, like, dude, why not, and making sure that you really believe that in your own head. So, I mean, yeah, he, inevitably we ended up just, started. And the other thing is like the kid calls you every day, he just calls you. He just, calls to talk about what, what's going on. Well, what protein supply are you using? All these different things. And I'm like,
right.
okay, there's one thing that I do know is he's interested, like genuinely interested in what's going on.
Yep.
And then, yeah, eventually he was like, dude, like I got all these different connections with these owners. We've been buying product from them. We've been pushing product through their stores. I think it would sell on our shelf.
Let me be a resource for you.
Let me be a resource. Let's shift up the model. And so I was all for it. PJ comes in, I'm all for it. Obviously now things have changed. At that point in time, we had, before PJ came in, I actually did have two other partners. My first partner, who we kind of designed the general concept with and kind of brought a product to market. And then we kind of brought on an operational guy who had bought and sold some different businesses and brought business structure to the business. Like, hey, these are the checks and balances you guys need to take care of. Like, dude, I didn't really know.
Sure.
I was willing to hustle and I was willing to like go through and learn and stay late and learn what those guys did and wake up early and like have conversations. When PJ slid in, it shook up the waters a little bit.
Sure.
It ruffled things. Not everybody liked the different, potentially going with a different business model and potentially going down a different avenue of how we're going to try to scale out this concept as a whole, and grow the business as a whole. And I chose one way and they chose another, and that's
Sure.
kind of how things work out. And it is what it is. There's no hard feelings on anyone's end, but at least mine.
That's not an easy decision to make. Like you had already built up some momentum heading in one direction
Yeah.
as a B2C company. In order to transition, guys, this is like a car going down a road. You can't just jump track to the other direction. You have to slow down.
I think my other partners were threatened by the confidence. The confidence
Sure.
that PJ brought.
I can see
and
that.
like there's this aura when you get around certain people that like, like, hey, bro, I got it more than you.
Well,
You know what I'm
there's
saying?
also
Like,
people who they like to be near the top of the room in terms of
and
their knowledge.
he started taking
And yeah.
from him.
And again, I wasn't present in the room at that time, but knowing PJ can assume that
yeah.
probably played a role.
And nothing against like my past business partners, like both of them
No.
are extremely successful. They have multiple businesses that they run and they found a ton of success, but there's, whether it's the industry, whether it's the type of people I've been around it. I've been in rooms where I walked in and I was like, damn, that motherfucker's got it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's this aura about people when they walk in rooms.
But there's a difference of walking into that room and feeling, what's the word I want? Of feeling threatened, or walking into the room and recognizing that same person and saying, I'm in front of an opportunity to learn.
See, that's the person that's perceiving them that way, though. That has nothing to do with the person who walks in that's confident.
Right? Yeah, correct.
How
the
they
person
come
that's
off,
perceiving them.
sure, you might be
Yeah,
arrogant,
yeah.
you might be like certain things like that. But I think it all has to do with like for me, I definitely looked at myself. I was like, dude, this dude knows way more than what I know. And I'm like, I got to level up.
Well, it's recognizing that it's okay to not have all the answers yourself.
Yeah.
And it's also recognizing that when you do find yourself in a situation where you're not the smartest person in the room, that's not your time to talk. That's your time to listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and don't get me wrong, you should still be confident in what you do bring to the table, regardless of the situation, whether it's business, a classroom setting, anything.
Absolutely.
You should be confident in what you have because you're an individual. You bring things to the table that others don't. But everyone, and I firmly believe this, everyone has the opportunity to be a superior for someone else. You can walk into any room in the world. There will be someone who knows something better than you.
Yeah.
There is someone who can provide a perspective that you've never heard before.
Yeah.
But if you always walk in with the intention of I'm the smartest person here, or that arrogance, you don't give yourself the opportunity to learn those things. But if you walk in with the intention of assuming that there is something to learn from anyone in there, and this can be a million different things, you approach it completely differently. You approach it with the intention of asking questions instead of providing statements. And I don't want to, because again, this is your episode. I don't talk about you, but you brought up PJ.
Keep rolling. This is all good stuff.
PJ is that type of person. He's a great person to learn from because although he is incredibly confident in what he provides, he also knows when to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
He does. He knows
he's smart.
Exactly. He reads rooms well. He reads people well. And I think anybody has the ability to, at the very least, improve their ability to do this. It's just being more attentive. It's listening and observing before speaking. If you're constantly talking, you don't have the ability to learn from the other people in the room. And this is something I had to learn because I wasn't super, super confident growing up. I wasn't shy by any means or reserved, but I wasn't super confident. But I protected that or covered it by, making people laugh. Like I liked being the class clown in high school. I liked to slip in that funny joke, and I still do to some degree. I have a hard time getting away from that at times.
I'd say you're a good time, especially when we get some tequila in the system.
Yeah, but the point is, like, I eventually hit a point where I realized just because you're talking doesn't mean you're not serving a purpose. Because if you're not allowing those new perspectives to enter your mind, you don't have the ability to share those perspectives with what you already know. And again, I don't want to just vomit quotes out here, but one thing I really, really love, I've held it near and dear to my heart, is that when you're speaking, you're repeating what you already know. When you're listening, you have the opportunity to learn something new.
Yeah.
And that's something I will always, always, always remind myself anytime I know I'm about to meet someone new. If I am meeting someone new, it's something I try to remind myself in the moment because that's the truth. You have the ability to meet the most amazing connections, whether you're in business, whether you're just trying to build relationships around you, regardless of what you're trying to do in life. A lot of what life is built on the connections you're able to make and the resources you're able to utilize through those connections. And if you're always fucking talking, you don't get an opportunity to make
like
those.
Jeff on our call the other day.
Oh my God.
I'm like, Jeff, you got to shut up.
I
man.
hope Jeff doesn't listen to this.
But no,
that was amazing.
I think like just a caveat off of what you're saying, there's always going to be a sense of like prejudgment going into whether you're going to meet somebody new or you meet them and you immediately make a judgment, whether it's off their appearance, how they carry themselves. And it's really weird for me because right now I'm seeing, and these are with people that I know that I've whether I grew up with them or I'm around them a lot currently. I know how they function and I know kind of what they believe and don't believe in. And there's a lot of kids our age right now who are going through this change of, I already know who this person was from 5 years ago, from 6 years ago in high school, from when I met him there, when I met him here. And now they're leveling up and this person knows they leveled up much farther than them. But this person still doesn't think they're worth a shit because of what they knew from them 5, 6 years ago.
They're focusing on the mistakes they made when they were
They're focusing on what they
15.
previously thought of them.
Right.
And they're missing out on so much. Dude, I have it with some of my friends.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell them certain things are going on in our business and they still don't think it's worth a shit. And I'm like, listen, man, at some point you've got to put like past judgment of people behind them, and realize that people change, people evolve, you grow, you learn new things, you experience new things and you become a different person, you evolve. And so many people miss opportunities because they're unwilling to say, I'm willing to let go of my previous judgment of you because you've shown me you've changed.
Yeah, dude. And you brought up a super good point in regards to hanging on to previous beliefs created from past experiences. You know,
Yeah.
for the example you used was people, you knew in high school or college from, 5, 10, 15 years ago. And I think social media is also causing a very similar danger because we build interpretations or perspectives of people in our heads before we've ever met them,
Right.
simply based off what we see on
And it can
social
be good
media.
or bad. That's why I'm not
Exactly.
totally
It can
against
be
social media.
good or bad, but both have the opportunity to be dangerous.
Sure.
Because the reality of it is experiences will be limited by what you allow them to be before they've happened.
Mm.
I know that was kind of a long walk for a
Yeah, I'm
short drink of water,
processing, yeah.
but we all visualize or consider what could happen in an experience before it arises. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. Like
Yeah.
before you came in today to record, did you spend time this morning?
That voice goes through your head.
Yeah.
You start to picture
You
things.
start, what am I
yeah.
going to talk about? What's Jared going to ask me?
Yeah,
You start
absolutely.
visualizing. You're making an expectation in your head. Now, let's use that same example. When you thought about that, were you feeling good about what you were thinking about, or did it make you nervous or anxious, or were you like, "This is a waste of my time"? Jared's not shit.
Fired up.
He's fired up.
I
Okay.
was fired up. It was ready to go.
And how's the conversation been?
It's been incredible.
It's been good.
It's been awesome.
And that's my point. Is you create
Controlling those thoughts.
Exactly. You create a result or an outcome before you even enter the space.
That's a higher level of thinking, though, and a higher level of consciousness to be able to understand, like, listen, I need to control what is going through my head right now because it's going to set me up for a positive outcome.
But that being said, it doesn't take an incredibly educated person to grasp it. I mean,
It takes one time for you to have it work, or one time for you to like find success from it, for you to believe in it. Like, I'm still struggling in my golf game. I'll get over the fucking ball and I'm like, seriously. I mean, dude, it's a good analogy.
I don't want to hear you
You
complain
sit
about
there,
golf.
you know exactly what you're thinking about, and then you think about something else and the ball's in the woods. It's no different from anything else.
You're absolutely right.
When you start to question and second guess things, and it's not even like, I don't like saying the word controlling what your thoughts are and all those things, because like eventually it just happens naturally and you just become that person who stays in a positive mindset, and you're optimistic versus pessimistic, and that's who you become.
Right.
You go from faking it till you make it, which I don't love that, to faking it till you literally became it. You
Sure.
did it so much to where you no longer think about those negative
Exactly.
things, and
The point
everything geared toward
the point
glass
I
half
guess
full.
I'm trying to make is that we have the ability to not only predict, but in a way create a future outcome. And this is not.
Manifestation.
Oh, manifestation.
Law of attraction.
That was your late night DJ voice. No, dude, but it's true. It's absolutely true. It's been a huge thing for me. It took me forever to grasp and to understand and to really even open my mind to it. And I think
Me too.
I think that's the biggest thing for people is they want to be open to it, but they're just, from a very conditional point, they're not open-minded about really anything.
Well, they're not willing to listen, and I've gone through this. I was a late developer in the like law of attraction, however you want to think of it, whatever you want to call it. The idea around, what my thoughts are will have a heavy impact on the outcome.
Yeah.
And on what happens. And there's a lot of people, I'm not a big believer in sitting there and feeling the Ferrari in your hands and all those things. Like, some people, explain. Two of my best friends, we were having this conversation, and one of them and it's kind of weird, I'll get to that later, but we're having this conversation explaining it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's real fucking stupid. I need to sit there and just think about a big old mansion. I'm going to have it." And it's like, no, you're unwilling to listen and like think about it practically. But it's a big part of it.
It is
not necessarily sitting there, but the positive mindset around what you want to accomplish and believing that it will and can happen, and putting yourself in a headspace of being grateful that it's going to happen and excited about what's to come. That's everything. And I think a lot of people reject that because they look at it as like, oh, well, I still got to work. And it's really weird because at least at my age right now, and I'll connect with people younger. Every Sunday I work with kids who are in all the way from, 7 years old up until college. And then obviously from a business standpoint with GoMix, we work with people who are, in their 50s, 60s and have been through this whole thing. Every single person who like is truly happy, and you can feel that vibe from them. They're in a comfortable space. They're happy with where they're at. They have some push in their life. They're feeling fulfillment. You can have these conversations with them about that, like positive outlook, law of attraction, manifestation type thing. It seems like all the miserable motherfuckers out there are sitting there saying like, nah, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And they're sitting there and telling themselves like, how stupid is that these people just think it's going to happen, And the reality is you don't think it's going to happen, but all you do, it's not just thinking it's going to happen. All of your actions align with what goes through your head. I saw a really good quote the other day, and I think it was something along those lines, but it was like, perception's reality, those type, every decision you make is going to be based off of a belief. So if I believe it's going to happen, I'm going to make a decision that's going to push me forward, whether it's showing up to the meeting, making the phone call, replying to the email late. If you believe it's going to happen, you're going to be more inclined to execute on certain actions that are going to inevitably get you there.
Right.
Those actions go hand in hand with the belief in your head.
Right. And
Clip that.
The explanation I've always loved is the position we're in right now is because of what we've believed we're capable of up to this point.
100%.
And
100%.
the position we'll be in
PJ for it.
Yeah. The position we'll be in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, will be entirely dependent on what we believe we're capable of in that next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think the simplest explanation I can give, because without that belief of what you're capable of, nothing else changes. I mean, that's the simplest.
It doesn't, man.
It doesn't.
Dude, I'm telling you, that was the one thing that changed. Not the one thing, but like the by far biggest thing that changed for me when I got released and I'm looking back at the kids that made it. I'm like, okay, why'd you make it? Why'd you make it? Every single one of them, whether it was because they were from the hood and they really didn't have any option, in their head, the only option for them, and more so the belief that it was actually going to happen. Not that it was the only option. The belief that it was actually going to happen was the difference. I was sitting there like, I have these fallbacks. Like if it doesn't happen, it's all good. And my mindset changed towards it. And we found a ton of success in the last 2 years. So
yeah. Oh, dude, this was so good.
Love it.
God, I loved where that ended. Honestly, I want to keep going. But
What
not
are we
only are we
at?
getting
What are we
a
at
little,
time-wise?
we're a little over an hour, but honestly, I don't want to go a lot further just because I loved where that was. I think that was an awesome point to kind of conclude things. Guys, if you loved what Joe had to talk about today, I'd love for you guys to give him a follow on Instagram. His personal is just at Joe Hansley, JoeHansley.
Correct.
And
I'm not huge on the social game, but I'll post some good stuff here and there. Like I'll post stuff about, different mindset.
I'm going to be honest. Your social bothers me.
Really? You don't like my social?
No, it's not that I don't like it. It's that I try really hard and get like 50 likes, and
the like thing.
You post the picture with like hashtag Sunday, and it's like
no. Honestly, like I think
is it the face? It's the face.
I don't think it's the face. I think I have. I'm
this video if it's the face.
I'm on the other side of you. I think a lot of people look at me and like think of me as like a toxic masculinity because I'm young, confident, and doing what I want.
Confident, good looking, starting businesses.
Stuff, so
yeah, I can see it.
It's all good though. It's all
but no,
come.
Guys, give Joe a follow. He does some awesome stuff. Not only on Instagram, but he gets opportunities to do stuff like this all the time. And he likes to share those things too. So give him a follow. The business that he started and that we're both involved in is Go Mix Tech. That's at GOMIXTECH. Would love to get you guys support on what we're doing there. Joe, dude, this was awesome. I appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much for having the support, for coming in, telling your story, and allowing people to learn from you, because that's what this is all about. That's why we're here. That's what we're hoping to do. Guys, thank you so much. Again, give us a follow on Instagram. Stay up to date with our upcoming episodes. See who's coming on the show next, as well as follow along with us to stay up to date on those clips that we like to post for you as well. We'll see you a week from now with another guest that I'm super excited to introduce you guys to. But remember, guys, you must fail forward.